such a great group this morning of people who've been entrepreneurs or working in innovation at the cutting edge. And we've got people scaling businesses or have scaled multiple businesses. So I think we're gonna have a great conversation about what does it look like, and I guess what we're calling natural capital. That kind of has a 1970s feel to me. Here, natural woman. Okay, but it's natural capital. So it's things that are spawned by nature, maybe? Okay, so I'm gonna ask each of you, we've an illustrious panel here of innovators. So I'm gonna ask you each to introduce yourself and tell us, why are you here? Why are you at Davos? What do you hope to get done in the world?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Katie. Thanks, John and Allison and everyone. I'm Dava Newman. I'm the director of the Media Lab at MIT and the Apollo Program Professor of Astronautics. Why am I here? Discovery, curiosity, innovation, and fundamentally, as an educator, lifelong professor, to raise up the next generation, which I'm pretty excited because some of the next generation and former students are here with me, so it's always about paying it forward. And just imagine, what if we get it right? That's why I'm here. What if we get it right? Gen AI, Gen Bio's coming. We're measuring and monitoring everything. That's the technology super cycle. I'm a technologist, but it's about the people. We fundamentally, it's human-centered design, and it's our choice. So let's design these systems that not just humans, but take care of all living systems and beings, and we could get back in balance with our natural systems. We can do this, people. I like moonshots, as you might imagine. So pick your favorite moonshot, pick your wonderful colleagues and teams, and let's just focus and get it right, because we know what to do. We have the technology. So I ask all of you, do we have the will? Can we muster up the will and the right alliances for the moonshot, the dreams of your dreams? And then let's get it right. Let's hold ourselves accountable. And you know what? It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Leah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leah. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sublime Systems. We're making low-carbon cement. As you may know, cement is about 8% of global CO2 emissions. It's one of the biggest industries by mass in the world, so 1 ton of cement results in 1 ton of CO2 emissions. So I've been on a mission to have a swift and massive impact on reducing CO2 emissions by addressing cement. And so for the past 5 years, I've been scaling up this new technology spun out of MIT. So most recently, we've landed a $75 million partnership with Holcim and CRH, 2 of the largest cement makers in the world. And I'm here in Davos to meet with them, meet with you all, and meet with people who, like you said so well, are going to do this.
And Allie.
My name is Allie. I'm Senior Vice President of Corporate Development at Commonwealth Fusion Systems. I am here, so we're commercializing fusion energy. For those that may or may not be familiar, fusion is the power of it's the process that powers the stars, and we're working to bring that here on Earth. It's ultimately like the fundamental building block of what could be the clean economy. It's clean, firm, safe, scalable, with basically an inexhaustible fuel supply. The amount of fuel in a glass of water could power your entire lifetime. And it ultimately, in our view, changes energy into a thing of natural resources to a thing of technology. And I think I'm here primarily because we want people to be educated and prepared, because ultimately we're at the cusp of an entirely new industry. There's an old adage, if you read about fusion in a lot of media, that it's 30 years away, but quite frankly, we're 30 months away. So the company that I work for is building a pilot plant an hour outside of Boston, and it's slated to turn on in about 30 months. But to really usher that into the world, we need lots of people to be prepared for what that could mean. And so we're here to make sure people are educated and happy to answer questions.
And Tod. Oh, wait, can you hand that mic down to...
I'm Tod Hynes. I'm the co-CEO at Magent, and I've also been teaching the Climate and Energy Ventures course at MIT since 2008. And we've had around 60 companies come out of that class, and alums have gone on to start another 100 companies and raised an aggregate of about $5 billion. I'm also on the board of the Woodwell Climate Research Center, which is one of the leading providers of independent climate science. And unfortunately, I can say that we're not moving anywhere near fast enough. It's amazing to see all the progress in clean energy. I've been in clean energy innovation since 2002. It's not happening fast enough. So we need to move faster, and I really think AI is one of the only things that can help the world move fast enough and in the right direction, which is why I'm starting Magent, which is creating personal AIs for individuals so that they can own and control their own data and amplify their skills so that they can be successful in an AI-driven world where you have organizational AIs making decisions and trying to get things done. In terms of why I'm here, I really want to make Davos more accessible to clean tech and climate CEOs. We actually co-founded a company with Seema Gupta, who's here, out of MIT as well. Last year we had 7 CEOs here, now we have 13. We're hosting an event tomorrow at Hotel Schatzalp. We have over 600 people registered. You're all welcome to come. And this is open and free. So we are trying to make it more accessible. And I've challenged myself to make 1,000 intros for these CEOs. So I hope I get to connect with lots of you after this.
Awesome. Okay, so great. All right, I'm going to start with scaling and capital. So I think one of the most difficult parts, and maybe to amplify what you said about there are many incredible technologies coming or out there, but they take enormous amounts of capital to scale, and we have to have the will to do that. So Allie, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're starting a fusion power plant. Chris Anderson said, wouldn't it be wonderful to have $100 million to start these plants and show the demonstration? What does it take to show fusion will work, and why is it important that the world does it?
Loaded
Spicy question.
So as I mentioned, we're currently building a pilot fusion power plant, but to get to actual commercial, to a commercial instantiation of it, the goal is to have that in the early 2030s. We need on the order of, $3 billion. I would say that's to build the actual asset. And I think the thing that's most important, though, is as you heard from Chris previously, is there's not really currently an existing bucket of capital that is made to do that. We haven't had to bring entirely new sources of infrastructure into the world since basically that predates project finance. But I think I can confidently say, we have this view that there are several things that if you put on the order of only less than $10 billion, you can punch through an entire new industry. So whether that's satellite from space, or internet from space, punch through less than 10 billion, Starlink. Self-driving cars, Waymo. mRNA, all of those things. And in the grand scheme of things, this is accessing markets that are literally in the trillions, and people are arguing if it's tens of trillions or hundreds of trillions of dollar markets. And in the grand scheme of things, I think that's a huge ROI.
And what does it open for humanity if it happens?
Imagine a world where you have access to unlimited energy, and that it would not be at the expense of the environment. What would you do with that? How would you change what you do with your business? I think our view at CFS is that ultimately there's 2 fundamental markets, energy and human creativity. And if both of those are basically unlimited, the world can do unimaginable things. But at the same time, with something like fusion, you could decarbonize almost all of the entire economy, whether that's steel, cement, built environment, like what Leah is doing, chemical production, agriculture, ammonia production, et cetera.
Okay, Tod, you've been involved in scaling multiple startups in the climate space, and now you're doing things in AI. Tell us about how you think about this as a market and what the world needs to do in order to punch through, as Allie would say.
So I think the biggest thing that we can do in terms of getting capital to these solutions is look at what has already scaled and go and learn from that and take those learnings and apply it to these emerging sectors. So I started a wind development company before you could get financing from banks in the United States. They were not financing wind projects. The whole market was about 500 million per year. The only game in town was selling your project to FPL because they could monetize the tax credits. So once that market got to about $1 billion per year, the banks who were getting 4.5% returns on low-income housing tax credits went, wait a minute, FPL's getting 12% on production tax credits. I want some of that. And so that drove the cost of capital from 12% to 9% to 6% and even lower. And that market grew from 500 million to 15 billion in the US in about 6 years. So we need to learn from that experience and apply it to others. That happened again with solar. Same thing. A lot of banks that were late to the wind game said, I want some of that too, but they couldn't get access to wind projects, so they started financing solar because the economics made sense. Now we're seeing storage. So those industries are now hundreds of billions of dollars a year globally, and we have to go look at all the emerging sectors. Marine CDR, renewable ammonia production, green hydrogen. There's dozens of these sectors that are going to be tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and the people that are financing these projects actually, they actually don't really care about the technology. They care about the risk. They want to see there's someone that's buying the energy, that thing is going to work, and the numbers pencil out. And a lot of times incentives drive that, or subsidies drive that, but that's the whole energy industry. So that's the thing we need to do is get these lessons learned, and how can we accelerate these other sectors, because there are wave after wave after wave of huge opportunities coming.
Right, so that's kind of like business can do it, capitalism can do it.
The money is there. There's unlimited capital if you can get through this challenge of de-risking. It's all about de-risking.
Makes sense. Okay, so Leah, now cement, like a very old industry dominated by a few players, and you're this upstart. How do you attract the amount of capital you need to get, a foot in the door so that you can bring low carbon or no carbon cement?
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, being in one of the most capital intensive industries is a challenge. So the average cement plant is 1 million tons a year. And it's really hard to go from a technology that was in the lab just 5 years ago at MIT to 1 million tons per year as fast as possible. So that is what Sublime is trying to do. We worked really quickly at first to build a pilot plant. So it has to be continuous. You have to show that it works, that there's no thermodynamic mystery to it. So that was the first thing we did. And right now that pilot plant has been up and running for 2 years continuously. So now we're building what we call our first commercial plant. It's 30,000 tons per year. But Katie, as you pointed out, like a small cement plant is very capital intensive. I call it like the awkward teenage cement plant. Like it's no longer cute and small. But it's not yet useful and it's not making money. So it is a big money sink. And like, as you were saying, like there's a lot of risk in these awkward teenage plants. Like they're expensive and they're going to make a lot of mistakes, but that's how you learn, and having great teenage years is what sets you up for success. So I've been really fortunate to have received strong support from the US DOE through the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration. So we are under award for a $90 million grant to reduce that CapEx burden for that first commercial plant. And then fortunately, these partnerships with these two big cement companies have come in and have taken the market risk away. So by buying that cement in advance.
Okay, so now I'm going to turn to you, Dava. You can't keep the youth down, can you? Can you stop innovation no matter what you say? So tell us about kind of how you inspire. What are the issues that people that you're educating care about, and how does that relate to these companies that are scaling?
Thank you so much for the questions. Let's talk about innovation, one of my favorite topics. And I want to also talk about government and private and academia to kind of go full circle and hopefully relate to everybody here in the audience. I developed a framework of innovation for NASA. And so also audience participation time. So how many people are innovators here? All right, great, good, you're with us, right? So let me, real quickly, continuous innovation. You think that's just 80% of innovation? It's just going to work every day and getting it right. Continuous innovation, just literally just having the focus. Let's innovate. What can we do differently? What don't you like about something? How could we innovate differently? But continuous innovation, I think it's going to help break through and help a lot of these companies, right? People love to do that. People are curious. Okay, what about revolutionary technology? Okay, call that revolutionary innovation. That's the tech push. Probably the folks up here on this panel, that's a lot of us. We love our technology. We want to do breakthrough technologies, and they're here and they're coming. You're hearing great examples. What I call disruptive innovation is actually changing your business model or changing your organization. From a world of space, right? People probably know about SpaceX, right? It's not new technology. Those rocket engines are the same. It's disruptive innovation. It's quick, bring down the price point, and be frequent, and go, go, go. Okay, that's all good. What if we get it right? What I call transformative innovation. This is what all the students want to do. They're smart. Let's change the technology. What's the next best, what can we do with cement? It has to work for people, right? We want to change it. And you change the business model. So what if we transform the technology and your business model at the same time? So that's what I call transforming technology. And that's, it's hard to do. It's hard to find life in the universe and searching. That's what I'm doing. But it's those big, bold ideas. It's the problem. What do our students want to do? Yeah, well, you know what? They want clean water. They want a world that they can live in and thrive in. And so you just ask them, what's the problem that they're trying to solve? And they'll tell you right away. And then we have to change our medieval institutions from academia to kind of catch up with that and allow, I think, taking risk. Panelists might disagree with me, but I give a failure award. I'm all for taking risks. How else do we succeed? So let's celebrate failure. I don't want to, waste any money either, but you're only going to do the breakthroughs, the transformative innovation, I think, if you take those risks. Otherwise, we're going to be incremental. And incremental is kind of boring and not so fun where I come from. And that's kind of hopefully reflecting the students and what they're excited about.
Okay, so we just, not to be US focused, but we just had a huge change in administration. And many goals were stated, maybe not exactly the Paris climate goals, but there were goals on how to transform industries. How do you take that opportunity of a change and grab onto it? Yeah, we'll start with Leah, Allie, Tod. Come on. I mean, we have to embrace the now.
Katie, can I turn it back on?
I even wore red for you.
You were red. Okay, we'll answer, but we need to hear from you. You've been at this.
Well, I mean, I run a venture capital fund.
Never seen her speech.
No, I'm not speechless. We've been bipartisan from the beginning. You have to be. You just have to figure out how to push these technologies and companies through, no matter who you have to work with, whether it's in the US, outside of the US. If you believe they must get through in order to make the change you want, that's the approach we've always taken, and so here we are. Leah, what do you got?
Yeah, I think
as a Canadian.
I'm a dual citizen,
Okay.
but I do speak as a Canadian often. So I think that clean technology is just next generation technology. It ends up, as you develop these things, you realize, as we are doing now, that the cement we're making is better in many ways. It is more durable. It has higher quality. It's more consistent. And it's also low carbon. And this resurgence in American manufacturing is just what we've been talking about all along. It's just branded in a different way. But like you said, it's bipartisan. Everybody wants jobs. Everybody wants to succeed. Everybody wants next generation technology. Everybody wants to win. And so to some degree, it's just packaging it in a different way.
Okay, Allie, what do you have?
My view is that independent of the climate crisis, and I will note that CFS is extremely mission driven. Everything we do is oriented around scale and speed and how to get thousands of power plants. But fusion is a good investment independent of the climate crisis. In fact, some of our earliest investors are actually large oil and gas majors, and we were quite selective in picking them, but it's not because of necessarily the association with the near term kind of green, benefit, but actually because they see a future of energy where there's a lot of analogous skill sets, and they want to build in a roadmap for their businesses. So I think it's a good investment independent, and ultimately it's a source of energy security, energy abundance. It's very manufacturing based, and so we feel pretty strongly that it's a pretty bipartisan investment. Innovation also, as Leah said, highly bipartisan, so we feel pretty good about it.
Tod, you got something spicy to say?
Yeah, I would say take advantage of this change. That can mean a lot of things. I think one of the biggest initiatives is to reduce government waste, reduce government spending. We're spending trillions of dollars globally on energy incentives and subsidies. Trillions of dollars globally on food incentives and subsidies that are actually producing unhealthy food and supporting a system that is not sustainable. Let's get rid of all of those subsidies. Let's get rid of all energy subsidies, right? If we do that, most of those subsidies are going to fossil fuel companies and traditional energy companies. And let's let the market actually compete and see which technologies are gonna win. I have a bet which ones are going to win.
Yeah, what do you think would win? That's an awesome idea.
Yeah,
What?
I think distributed energy, renewable energy, electric vehicles. So I think that let the market figure it out. Get rid of incentives. Get rid of subsidies. That would be my thing. Embrace it.
And what's the role of universities? What do we need in order to? I mean, all of you need to hire people. All of you educate people. What do we need the universities to do in this time to support kind of the natural capital companies?
So we can all take a shot at it. But we need the alliances. We need the partnerships. We need the partnerships. We have the brains. We have the young people. We have the inspiration. Keep them inspired and fundamental. Let's bring back civility. Let's teach ethics, right? The humanities, here from rocket science, just like fundamental training for our kids to figure out how we work globally. It is a new world. But again, let's have that foundational core. Let's have that core. We know what the problems are. We can't do it just in education. We can't work in our silos. So first, for their education, it has to be transdisciplinary. That's who they are. If we're solving the world's problems, you don't, need to just know one thing. You do need to know it all. They're talented. So huge fan of let's be problem-oriented, action-oriented. Kids are curious. They learn by doing. So that's on us to work with all the superstars, educate everyone. Education, knowledge should just be free, right? Open source it. Knowledge should be free. Come to a university, junior college, learn the trades, the work of the future. I'm talking about the work of the future, those jobs, those high-paying jobs in the U.S. Let's bring back the middle class. That's a moonshot. Let's bring back the middle class. That's all kinds of training. And guess what, industry? We need you as partners. You need to fund this, right? Those are your future employees. Here all the time. We don't have the trained people. We can train them all for you, right? But we need you to invest, in the kids as well and their education. And it should come in all flavors and all forms, from online, in person, 4 years, 2 years, 10 years for some folks. So open up the minds and but please, invest. And then governments, so again, it has to be those alliances. And if we are all focused and say, how do we accelerate? What are next year's goals? Not just 2030 and 2050. Let's get on it today. It's urgent.
And the corollary to that in business is, how do you think about working globally? I mean, I think it's incredibly important if you're going to be an impactful company that you're working globally. So how do you think about this fractured world and how you still make that huge impact that you want to make?
That's for me.
Sure. And anyone can jump in.
Yeah, we think a lot about the developing world. So India and Africa are going to surpass China as the world's biggest cement producing nation. So if we're not thinking about scaling there, then we're simply not going to have the impact. So that's another reason why I'm here in Davos, is to meet people from those countries and to start planting roots so that we can go as quickly as possible to where the impact is.
Allie, Tod?
I would say we try to engage very early and proactively. So fundamentally, since we're an entirely new industry, there's work that needs to be done to set up regulation and policy, and even just educating the community about what it is that we are. And so we try to actually go to countries, help them connect with other countries who have already established that market, et cetera. But also, I think one thing that's maybe fairly unique about Fusion is that we actually work very collaboratively with a lot of our competitors, because we understand that when we all go together with the same unified voice of what regulation and what market incentives or what sort of policy would make sense, one, we're pretty unified and we get through a lot quicker, but two, it shows that an entire industry is being stood up, not just a single company. And I think that is a strategy that's worked really well. The US and the UK are the first countries in the world to establish the actual rule-making for the regulation for fusion. But then what we've done is then taken that playbook and helped connect them with more developing economies. We've now scaled that to the G7, et cetera. And so that's a playbook that's really worked very well for us.
Nice.
All right, I mentioned earlier that getting back to the question around universities and what we can do, the class that I teach, the alums have started about 160 companies over the last 17, 18 years. That's linear. And what we've done is put all of the information and content of that class into a data set that we can then use in several different AI tools And I've sort of created essentially an AI clone, which I can show anybody here if you'd like. I'll share it with you to help make this go exponential. How do we take this to other universities? We expanded to UT Austin the old-fashioned way. I did 18 flights in 4 months. That's not sustainable in many ways. Technical University of Munich, we expanded in October. So now how do we take this and go exponential, right? How do we enable, package up this, what we've learned and what we're learning most importantly, and this is probably the biggest thing. The organizational chart of the future is a circle with AI in the middle and people getting the last thing done and honing on what they're really good at, what the AI can't figure out how to do itself. And so we need to help people understand what that means and help create that org chart and future and share it with the world.
I want to thank you all. This was awesome. Have a great day at Davos.